Welcome to the Stamina Author Engine podcast. I'm Frankie Blooding, USA Today bestselling author with over 24 years in this industry and a whole lot of glorious failure in between. This show is for the chaos authors. Every week I bring you the real mechanics of writing and selling books with the brain you actually have. Are you tired of running on someone else's engine? So am I. Let's burn the book mill and build one on yours. Hello and welcome. So today our topic is you can't tell me that I know how to do things. I'll prove you wrong. Which is something that I deeply enjoy hearing as a wife, a mother, a sister, a coach. And as an author, okay? I mean, let's look at it. When our characters do this, it's just like, I see what you're doing, and this is going to be entertaining, but I don't necessarily know that this is going to be fantastic for us. When I have one of my wild scribes, for instance, because my wild scribes do this the absolute most. Like, don't get me wrong, we all do this. But my wild scribes do this the absolute most. They're the daredevils, even though they are one of the most grounded of the author archetypes, right? However, when I tell them that they're really good at some point, they go out of their way to tell me that they can't, they're not good at this. They have proven so many times that it can't happen. And then if I'm coaching them, I will set them up and be like, okay, well, let's put together a goal, something that you know that you can actually achieve because you did it last week. And what will that look like? How can we build on that? And even if I get their buy-in in that second, because sometimes, look, sometimes I get buy-in in the coaching call, and then afterwards they're like, that Frankie doesn't know what she's talking about. I am not good at this. I can't do this. And I'm going to prove both of us wrong. No, it's really, I'm going to prove her wrong because I'm right. Okay. This is literally what self-sabotage is. And for years, it was something that I called the block. Because I couldn't figure out how to overcome it. I'm not a wild scribe. I am a heart-weaving myth maker. And when I say that we all do this, I mean we all do this. But I do it in a different way because the myth maker side of me is a workhorse. And I prove myself wrong in work by doing a lot of work. I'm a stress producer. I produce really well under stress. That's the myth maker side of me, but the heart weaver side of me sometimes really falters with a lot of stress and it can really wear me out. But I mean, this is what makes us so unique. This is what makes us so unique. But why is it that we do this? It's kind of a protection mechanism. Okay, this is a fear-based protection mechanism. And look, I thought that I had finally discovered the issue on how to overcome this. And then I took the week 2 lesson in Eileen Rouse's Essence program. Dude, she stabbed me repeatedly with myself. Like, sometimes the work that we do comes from different angles, and it's very interesting and very neat how we can find the connections to our solutions in so many different ways. But anyway, I'm digressing. All right, so when someone tells you that you're amazing, what is your first reaction? A lot of us authors, our first reaction is that's not true. That can't be true. There's no way that could be true. You're lying. Let me prove you wrong. And we look at that like it's a weakness, like it's some kind of a failure. And when it's not, it's the absolute opposite. Our fear, our past selves are trying to protect us from a future that it perceives or we perceive, something that we have consciously said, I do not want to be that. Okay. And I know what mine was. Like, I know the thing that I do not want to become. And the way those fears hold us back in our indie author career are very interesting because those are the same fears that keep us from sitting down and writing or doing our marketing. Oh my God. I can't tell you how many times this particular fear has kept me from doing the marketing that I know that I need to do because I built the marketing machine, and when I implement it, it works. It works really well. But there's this little voice in the back of my head going, I don't care that it works well. It worked well, past tense. That doesn't mean it's going to work well, future tense, right? So the four houses deal with this a little bit differently. Okay. So, what I have seen, and I dare you to prove me wrong, get on a call with me and just be like, Frankie, you have it so wrong. This is how it actually is. Okay. So, in my observations, the lore keeper is just like, trouble? What trouble? Everything's fine as they just continue to move along because the ritual of doing, getting up every day at the same time, getting their butt in the chair, getting writing done, working, moving things forward, that is filling their tank and it's making them feel like everything is working just fine. And if they see that something isn't working, it completely derails them because now they're just like, oh my God, I have to pivot. And that adds so much more resistance to their day. And they're just like, now I can't do the things that make me happy, which is getting up every day at the same time, sitting their butt in the chair, getting words done, making forward progress on their book or whatever. All right. Now, the myth maker is also a worker bee and gains energy by doing work. Filling the cup for a myth maker often looks like doing weird work, building websites and spreadsheets and databases and rereading an entire series to build the series Bible because you discovered that the one that you have has holes in it, or test driving a new AI because someone said that it was really cool and you're just like, really? Let's see how cool it really is. And then sometimes it is and sometimes it's not. But both cases, like, you're energized. The myth maker says, I can't stop until I have a solution. I don't care if it's 2 a.m. and I haven't eaten. Okay. Because the myth maker also deals in stress and works in stress and works with stress. Like, stress has to be a operational component to how the myth maker actually works. Self-sabotage shows up when a problem doesn't have a good solution. And even if someone is telling them, I know that you can figure this out, or you have the capability of doing this, like, there's always this self-doubt and it's just like, no, I can't. No, I can't, because I have proven that the solution isn't here. Look, sometimes it's not rational. Okay, sometimes it's not rational. How does self-sabotage show up for a heart weaver? It shows up in a lack of value of oneself. So I don't care what I need because my daughter needs me right now, or my husband needs me right now, or my mother needs me right now, or my best friend needs me right now. Everybody else's needs are more important than her own because she or he, I have a lot of male heart weavers, do not value themselves. And that's how that self-sabotage comes in, because anybody who comes in and says, "You're a very valuable person. Like I don't understand why you don't value who you are. You should absolutely stand up for yourself, set boundaries, and protect your time and space." And they're like, "I have no idea why you came up with this idea, or why you think that I should be allowed to sit down and write right now, because there are all of these other things that I should be doing for my family that I'm not. Like, I didn't put the laundry away. I haven't earned the right to sit in this chair." Now, sometimes we feel like that is valid. That's a very valid statement, because those people who find advantage by our acts of service get very upset with us when we take our time back. And they're like, "What do you mean my laundry wasn't folded? Where are my socks? What do you mean? What do you mean? You couldn't find your own socks. They're in the same pile as mine." You know, sometimes we find that it is easier and safer to sabotage ourselves, to protect ourselves from those conversations, because those conversations are hard. You know what? It's just easier to fold your socks and put them away for you than it is to have this argument multiple times so that I actually have time to write in the time that I have the energy for creative endeavors. Okay. So sometimes there are reasons why we sabotage ourselves, but all we're really doing is making the moment easier, not necessarily adding the value that we're wanting to add in the life that we're trying to build for ourselves. Okay, so then the wild scribe, the one that inspired this entire post, he says, "You say trouble. Ha! I knew it was going to happen this way. No one can tell me I'm wrong." How do you argue with that? I mean, there are many ways to argue with that. But this is an argument against hope, is basically what it is, which makes a lot of sense for the wild scribe, because the wild scribe is centered around trust, self-trust. Whenever a wild scribe is wildly productive, they believe in themselves. And whenever a wild scribe is floundering, they are struggling with self-trust. And so part of self-trust is hoping, is this hope that they can actually meet the goals that they have set out for themselves. And it's very difficult when you discover that you didn't quite meet the goal the way you wanted to. In most cases, the next time you try it, like, you just tweak it and you do it just a little bit different. But there's a resistance there if you keep doing it and you keep not meeting your goals because they're just out of reach. You're building a lack of trust in yourself. That is a perception. Okay, that is a perception. Because in all honesty, you were actually growing and you were extending yourself just a little bit further and a little bit further. And you're not pulling back so that you can actually see how capable you are. All right. So this was something that came up as I was doing the recordings for the Stamina Author Engine the other day. And I had this conversation with a couple of my wild scribes, the ones that I can call whenever because, one of them is married to me and the other one is my best friend. And the conversations with both of them were very interesting. Like my husband, that poor guy, he has gone through so much by being married to me. But he accepted it and then he let it sit there because that's how wild scribes work. And then we had the actual conversation like 3 hours later after he'd had an opportunity to let it percolate and to make the connections. And we had a very interesting conversation, but I could see how things are kind of starting to turn just a little bit. And the reframe is that self-sabotage is your fear's way of protecting you. And in his case, it's protecting him from hope, which is very interesting because I have an entire series that is based on defending yourself against hope. And I just now made that realization and connection. It's interesting how we evolve like that. So finding your author rhythm sometimes is about figuring out how you operate. And in this case, how you keep yourself defended into a hole of your own making. If this resonated, great. You're doing well, but you don't have to prove me wrong. Just you're doing well. And if you would like to know more, you can find me at realindieauthor.com. That's it for this episode of the Stamina Author Engine podcast. If something here landed, if you finally saw your own pattern, I'd love to hear about it. And if you want me to name your rhythm one-on-one, grab a free Unstuck Author Call. The link's in the show notes, and yes, it's actually free. And yes, I'll tell you the truth. Same time next week, Chaos Authors. Until then, burn the book mill, build your engine, and write amazingly.